Okay, so today we're looking at Rite Aid. There's quite a bit happening there financially.
Right. The big news seems to be reports about a potential second bankruptcy filing.
Yeah, and this is what, less than a year after they came out of the last one, back in September 2024?
Exactly. It seems quite fast. The information, apparently, comes from a Bloomberg report citing an internal letter from the CEO, Matthew Schroeder, to the employees.
So that sounds pretty direct. And it seems the main trigger, or at least the immediate one, is about funding.
That's what it looks like. Reports say they just couldn't get the additional capital they needed from lenders, money to keep operations going.
Okay. And if you're just tuning in and want to understand what's going on with Rite Aid and the pharmacy industry, you're in the right place. We're going to unpack this.
Definitely.
And hey, if you find this helpful, please do give us a like and subscribe. It really helps.
So back to the reasons.
Yeah.
Beyond just the lending issue, what else is driving this?
Well, the CEO himself, Schroeder, he apparently pointed to the economy, called it a dramatic downturn.
Okay, so broader economic factors are definitely in play.
Seems so. And also just rising costs. Suppliers costing more, landlords charging more, the usual operational pressures, but maybe intensified now.
Sure, that makes sense. And it's important, like you said before, this isn't just a Rite Aid problem, is it?
No, not at all. The whole pharmacy retail world is, it's facing some serious challenges.
Like what specifically?
Well, drug margins, for one, they're falling. Less profit on the actual prescriptions they fill.
Right. And then there's the competition aspect.
Exactly. You've got huge players like Walmart, like Amazon, really pushing into the pharmacy space.
Yeah. And they operate differently, maybe have lower overheads, different structures. It makes it tough for the traditional chains.
It does. And we're seeing that pressure lead to store closures pretty much across the board, not just with Rite Aid.
Okay. So these financial problems, they're having real consequences for Rite Aid's people too, right? Job cuts?
Yes, absolutely. Reports indicate they're planning workforce reductions, starting, it seems, with the corporate offices in Pennsylvania. And specifically for New York, the timeline mentioned is around June 4th next year, 2025. That's when the first kind of employee separations are set to begin.
In which parts of the company does that affect in New York?
It looks like employees at Rite Aid's New York Incorporated, also Eckerd Corporation, and Genovese Drugstore Incorporated facilities. So pretty broad within their New York structure.
Got it. So job cuts are happening alongside, the other big impact, store closures.
Right. And the numbers for New York are pretty startling.
What are we hearing?
The reports suggest over 175 Rite Aid pharmacies across New York State could close.
Wow. Over 175. That's a huge number just for one state.
It really is. And it's tied directly to this potential bankruptcy filing, it seems. A way to cut costs and shrink the footprint drastically.
And these aren't just potential future closures, right? Some are already happening.
Correct. We know of at least 2 in Brooklyn that have closed recently or are about to. One was on 18th Avenue in Bensonhurst.
Oh.
And another one, Bay Parkway and 60th Street. That one's apparently set to close very soon, like May 12th.
And the impact there must be immediate for the local people.
Definitely. Reports from that Bay Parkway area mention it hitting local residents hard, especially, older folks who really depend on that specific pharmacy for their regular medications. It's their neighborhood spot.
Yeah, convenience and accessibility are huge, especially for medications.
And we've heard anecdotes, too, from customers at some of these closing stores. Things like stock levels being really low leading up to the closure and staffing being cut back even before the doors finally shut, which, just makes getting service harder in those final weeks.
Right. It adds to the disruption for customers. Has Rite Aid themselves said anything officially?
They have. They put out a statement. They acknowledged making, quote, difficult business decisions.
Okay.
And framed it as necessary to optimize their retail footprint. Standard corporate language for closures.
Sure. Did they mention customers?
Yeah, they affirmed their commitment to customer service and said they believe they're taking the right steps to become more agile in meeting health and wellness needs, sort of looking long term.
Right. Trying to frame it as a strategic move for the future, even though it involves painful cuts now.
Exactly. And stepping back again, this fits into that wider industry picture we talked about.
Yeah, it's crucial context. Rite Aid isn't alone in struggling.
Who else is facing similar heat?
Well, Walgreens is a big example. They've also faced, significant financial losses recently.
Did they just agree to a buyout or something?
Yes, that's right. Which really just highlights how tough the market is for these established pharmacy retailers right now.
So it's a sector-wide squeeze. And for Rite Aid, this isn't their first rodeo with bankruptcy court, as we mentioned.
No, that 2023 filing was fairly recent. And they tried to use that process to fix several things, right?
Yeah, what were the main goals then? Reducing debt was a big one, wasn't it?
Definitely. Reducing debt, closing stores that weren't performing well, selling off their PBM, the pharmacy benefit company Elixir. That was part of it too.
Right, I remember Elixir. And also dealing with all the opioid lawsuits. That was wrapped up in the 23 bankruptcy too.
Settling those costly lawsuits was another major component of that restructuring.
Okay, so they did all that. Shed assets, settled claims, closed stores, but here we are again.
Exactly. Despite all those moves, reports indicate they still came out of that 2023 bankruptcy carrying a pretty substantial debt load.
So it wasn't enough to solve the underlying financial weakness.
Apparently not, which, highlights just how deep these issues run and how challenging the current environment is, the economy, the competition, the cost pressures.
Yeah. And the fact that a second bankruptcy is reportedly on the table so soon, it really underscores, well, the severity of the situation they're in.
It certainly does. It suggests the previous restructuring didn't provide enough runway or couldn't overcome these persistent headwinds.
So looking ahead, this whole situation with Rite Aid, it really throws a spotlight on the massive pressures in the retail pharmacy business today.
Absolutely.
And these aren't just numbers on a balance sheet. This potential second bankruptcy, all these store closures, especially the scale we're hearing about in New York, it's going to have, really significant impacts.
For sure. On communities, on individuals, people who rely on these pharmacies every day for essential healthcare needs. Access is key.
It really raises big questions, doesn't it, about the future landscape. Where will people go? How will pharmacy care adapt? It's a critical issue unfolding right now.
Definitely a space to watch closely.
Well, that's our look at the current situation surrounding Rite Aid. Thanks for joining us for this analysis.
Thank you.
And if you found this discussion informative, please do hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us bring you more insights like this. We'll see you next time.